Hi everyone, welcome to Art of the Unquiet Grave. If you're new here, I'm Ash, and I wanted to start the video off today by saying Happy Holidays! Or I hope you had happy holidays. So this video is very untimely and Christmas has come and gone at this point, but that's not going to stop me from bringing you a Creepmas project of everyone's favorite Christmas demon, which is Krampus, of course. So on December 5th every year, there is Krampusnacht or Krampusnacht that's celebrated in Austria and Germany, I believe. So basically, we're going to be doing a advent calendar for Krampusnacht. So a 5-day advent calendar. If you're not familiar with who Krampus is, these days, obviously, we think of Santa as having a naughty list for the bad children and a nice list for the good children. But in ancient times, Santa rewarded the good children and Krampus punished the bad. So Santa would have a sack full of toys for good children, and Krampus would abduct bad children, stuff them in his sack, and carry them to some terrifying hellscape. So anyway, Krampus is terrifying. But for those of us who love spooky season, this is a way to get our spooky fix during what's supposed to be happy holidays. So anyway, I thought this would still be useful, potentially, even though it's very late, since obviously all the stores now are going to have their Christmas items on clearance, and maybe you can find some things to pick up for your advent calendar for next year. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the video now, and then I will see you at the end for a little wrap up. Thanks.
So the first thing we're going to do is take some aluminum foil to start our armature for Krampus. So if this is your first foray into sculpting, I'll just quickly explain what an armature is and what its purpose is. So basically, the armature is the internal structure of your sculpture, and that'll give it some extra stability, and also it'll stop you from using as much clay. The first couple times I sculpted, I didn't know you were supposed to use an armature, so this is years ago now. And I just built my entire figures out of clay, and then when I put them in the oven, they were too thick and they would break. Also use a ton of product that way. So this helps kind of like bulk out your figure without adding a lot of extra weight. And since Krampus here is going to be on an advent calendar that can be hung on the wall, we don't want him to be too heavy. So the entire, like basically his skeletal structure here is going to be out of aluminum foil, which is very light. So he's just going to have like a clay skin, if you will. So that'll keep him light enough to hang on the wall without adding a ton of bulk. So this is some polymer clay that I got from Michael's. It was my first time using this Craft Smart brand, and to be completely honest, I hated it. If you're going to use polymer clay, I think the most common one and the most popular one to use is Sculpey, and I've definitely had better luck with that in the past. Polymer clay is sort of tough. It's just like a brick when you get it, and then you condition it, and it makes it like you sort of warm it with your hands, and they call that conditioning it, and that helps it be a lot more malleable and easier to put on your armature. This one, for some reason, no matter what I did, it did not want to warm, and I had to kind of like constantly fight with it. So word of the wise, use Sculpey. Unless I just had a bad batch of this, which I guess is possible, but it was way more tasking to work with than I wanted it to be. But we got there in the end. So anyway, basically I just conditioned the clay and then I rolled it out to as thin sheets as I could. And here I'm just going over his entire armature, that tinfoil structure, with some clay to give him like an outer skin, basically. I'm not going to worry about perfecting this. It's going to be lumpy, it's going to be bumpy, there might be parts of aluminum foil poking through. That's okay. We're just kind of trying to solidify his structure here. So the nice thing about polymer clay is that you can bake it countless times. So I did that base structure and then I baked it off. Now we're going to go back in and we're going to refine those features. So this is after he's been baked that first time. Now I'm going in and I'm adding his facial features. So his eyes here, as you can see. And then we're going to add his nose, his mouth, and then we're going to go back in later and smooth everything out. So basically the way that I like to do eyes is, as you just saw, I like to sort of take two balls and then build the eyelids on top of it. Now this again is going to be a very like rough sort of like primitive structure, just to get his basic facial features down, and then we'll go back in after we get all the placement done and we'll continue to finesse it. For some reason, my favorite part of sculpting him was his ears. So if you're not familiar with Krampus, if you haven't seen him before, he's typically very like a goat demon-esque thing. He's usually dark brown or black tones. Usually has this gigantic red tongue. Sometimes I've even seen pictures where he's like grabbing children with his tongue and like lifting them into his sack. It's very disturbing. Anyway, so the basic features of Krampus here: he's a goat-like demon with a huge red tongue. So here I am. I'm just going in and finessing those features like we talked about with the sculpting tool, and I'm just trying to smooth out like the bridge of his nose and his like mouth structure here. So then I went and switched to some different sculpting tools I have. These are just some, I think, like $3 cheapy ones that I got off of Amazon. And I'm just using those, like the dotting tool there, to make his nostrils. And I'm trying to add some texture for what would be like his beard. Now, generally Krampus, sometimes he's completely covered in fur. A lot of the times he's almost like a pan type figure, you know, familiar from like Greek mythology. And he's sort of like has fur legs, but it is like more skin from the waist up. I kind of decided to go with that here, so I've given him like more of a skin tone texture instead of being furry. So he'll have like a fur texture on his legs, and he'll have like a fur texture for his beard, but otherwise I'm going with skin. So the nice thing about polymer clay is that it sticks to itself, although if you ever had some um, more disagreeable clay like I had here, you can get liquid sculpty, which is basically a liquid version of the clay that'll help polymer clay stick to cooked or cured polymer clay. I didn't use that here, but it is an option if you ever find that you're having difficulty sticking on your unbaked pieces to your baked pieces. So now we're working on his little cloven hooves here. So this was I think it was an old Halloween piece that I got at Michael's. I don't even remember what was under here, but at some point I attempted to paint like a damask print on it. It didn't go very well, as you can see. So instead of throwing that away, I just decided to repurpose it. I painted it white with a chalk paint just to get like a base layer, and I'm going to go in and clean all that up later. But here are the acrylic paints that I'm going to use, basically just primary colors, to try to get like a little background here. I didn't want it to be too busy, and I kept it kind of like undefined and sort of more primitive looking because I want this to look aged. So here I'm just going to paint like a very sort of vague wintry landscape, just so Krampus remains the center focal point here. And I decided that was a little too blue and cheery looking of a sky for what we're going for here, so I went in with some more of like a grayish paint and tried to mix them together just to give it some more dimension and make it look a little more wintry and ominous. And I'm just stippling that on here too to try to make it look a little more like rugged terrain on the snow there. So since you're at a weird angle, you might not be able to tell what I'm doing, but obviously from the vantage point where I'm sitting, that's going to be like a snowy covered hill, and then sky behind it is what we're going for. So as you can see, I just put in some of those little primitive trees. I'm not doing like Bob Ross landscapes here. So I just wanted to get something for like a little bit of background filler, but I kept them sort of kind of cartoony looking almost and undefined for what I was going for. I wanted it to look more aged and not, you know, hyper realistic. Okay, so here's Krampus after he got baked the second time after all the details got put on. And now I'm just painting him with a brown base layer. Then we're going to go in and add our low lights and our highlights and do all the shading. Now I'm going in with a dark brown paint on top of that light brown base layer that we did, mixed with a little bit of black. And I'm just going to, it was dry brushing it. Now I'm going to wipe it back so I can get all that texture on his legs. There you can see it a little better. There's like little divots in his hip thigh region to try to give it the illusion of fur. Now we're going to go in with our highlight color, which is I think it's called like fawn beige or something like that. And I'm going to put that on his face just to give him some highlights for his facial features. And then we're going to go and basically cover all that up in a minute because I think I changed my mind on it pretty quickly. Yep, and here's where I changed my mind. So then I went in with a dark brown paint, mixed it with a little bit of like a gray tone, and now I'm going in to darken those facial features again. So I just did a couple layers of that, and then this is what we ended up with, and now it's time to paint that gigantic red tongue. So then you can see I just painted him some like the creepy goat's eye pupils there, like the horizontal pupils, and now I'm just painting his teeth. And a little bit of highlight there on his pupil and iris. Okay, so Krampus, if you're unfamiliar, oftentimes in like the folklore, he'll have bells that he will like sort of jingle, or he'll be wearing bells. So here I'm making him basically like a little, what do I want to call this? Like a little hip skirt, a little loincloth, if you will. And I sewed some of these tiny little jingle bells on it that I got from Dollar Tree. And what would a project of mine be if I didn't reuse these curtains? I know, these have been in every project that I've had. I am starting to run out of them though, so you'll start to see new fabric soon, I promise. But here is what we're going to make his sack out of for his abducted children. So I'm just sort of doing like a running stitch. This doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to go in and reinforce all of the stitching in this with hot glue just because this is going to be actually glued to the advent calendar board and I want to make sure it's very sturdy. So now I'm just flipping it right sides out. And now you can see we have sort of like a general sack shape here, but I'm going to keep finessing this after I get it on the board later. Okay, now here I'm just taking a drill and I'm drilling in 5 holes for our little knobs that we're going to be hanging our children from. And this is the hardware that those knobs came with. I got them off of Amazon, I think in like a pack of 12. Just these tiny little jewelry box knobs. And I put the screw through the back, obviously, and I'm just twisting it on the top to secure it. And I'm going to repeat that 5 times. So here's Krampus. On the back there, I drilled a hole and a little screw just to give him some extra stability when I glue him down, just to make sure that there's, you know, something else supporting his weight rather than just the glue so he doesn't come crashing off at some point in time. I also sewed a little strap there because I was trying to figure out how to make it look like it was slung over his shoulder while I'd still have access to the whole sack to put the children in. So I just made a little strap and I attached it to the front. Now that I have the sack situated where I like it, I'm just going to go ahead and glue that down. I also did a clear coat on Krampus just to seal him as well. Okay, so he's starting to come together, as you can see. Now I'm just taking some black paint and I'm going to dry brush that and wipe it back around the border of the frame there to make it look more antiqued and aged. I'm sort of buffing that in. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen there, I did attach some numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for all of our 5 children and our 5 days in Krampusnacht for our calendar here. So I just glued those. Those were just some like plastic clock numbers that I got off of, I think, Amazon or maybe Michael's at some point. I've had them in my stash for a long time. And I'm just covering them with some black paint too that I'm also going to wipe back, again, just to give it more of like a cohesive, antiqued, aged look. Like, I didn't want anything to be too shiny or too gold, you know, that's defeating the purpose here. I wanted it to look like maybe you got it at some Austrian Christmas market or something like that, and maybe you got it home and then realized it was cursed and that it summons Krampus. You know, just the things I think about. Anyway, I just took some black paint here and I'm doing a wash to try to get some more shading in the corners. And then the pack of ornaments that I got the children that I'm using, they came with these poinsettias and those like jingle bells too. So I'm gonna put those in the corners. Now here's his little jingle bell loincloth. For some reason, this was like the part of the project that I was the most excited about. I don't know why, it just amuses me. So here are these little like Victorian vintage child ornaments that I got. They're just wooden Christmas ornaments that I got off of Amazon. And it had 5 different varieties of children, which was perfect for my purposes. So I put a different string that they came with and hung them on the knobs. And here's the reveal.
Okay, so there is our Krampus Advent Calendar all finished. I'm really happy with the way that he turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed him too. Again, I'm so sorry that I didn't get this out to you at the beginning of the month like I intended, but I hope that you enjoyed it anyway and that you got some inspiration for next year. Obviously, too, since we only did a 5-day Advent Calendar, you could always add more children, more pegs, customize it to, if you wanted to make a 25-day Christmas Advent Calendar out of it, just to serve as inspiration. But let me know how your holidays were. I hope that they were very happy. And thank you so much for all the support and love you've given my little channel over the past year. And I can't wait to show you what I have coming up in 2024, which sounds ridiculous. But anyway, I'll see you soon with January's project. And also I have some fun stuff in the works for Halloween. So if you haven't already, please like my channel. Comment on the video for what your favorite part of the holiday was, what you're looking forward to next year, or what you'd like to see me do on this channel. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Okay, thank you. Bye. Oh, and Happy New Year. I'm not too late for that yet. Happy New Year. Okay.